So some of you may have heard that Cinderace is releasing next week on December 30th as a 7-star raid in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This means that starting then, we will actually be able to use Cinderace competitively in Scarlet and Violet. Some of you may remember that Cinderace was one of the strongest Pokemon last generation, and it actually ended up getting banned from OU because the combination of its speed, move pool, and of course its signature ability Libero just made it too powerful to handle. So when Scarlet and Violet was first released, I was really sad to see that Cinderace wasn't in the initial batch of Pokemon. So now that we know that we're getting it next week, it's finally time for the agency to prepare. So basically, in this video, I'll be going over what I think of Cinderace. Will it be as powerful as it was in Sword and Shield and get banned once again? Or will the heightened power creep from Pokemon like Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao cause it to fall behind? Let's find out. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the intro. Let's get right into the video. So, I have my trusty Showdown team builder here with a bunch of different Cinderace sets that we're going to be going over. I also will have the tier list on the right so we can compare Cinderace to a bunch of the most used Pokemon in the tier currently. And then of course, in the tab over, I do have all of the Scarlet Violet OU sample teams so we can see how Cinderace would adapt to this type of metagame. Is it good versus its teams, bad versus them, and that kind of thing. So with that, let's just jump right into it. So one thing I do want to say about Cinderace is despite this Pokemon getting banned from Sword and Shield OU last generation, it was legal for a good 6 months. It wasn't immediately a Pokemon where everyone was like, oh shit, this is just out of control, we need to get rid of it. It was around for a good 6 months until it became just the undisputed best Pokemon. And when it did get banned, it was unanimous. So a big thing behind the Cinderace ban back then was Libero. Libero, it changes your Pokemon's type to the move it's about to use. Now, last generation and before that, we saw this with Protean Greninja. Protean was considered one of the best abilities, if not the best ability, because no matter what attack you used, your Pokemon turns into that type beforehand. This is why Cinderace was banned last generation, because the reasons cited were that it just has no counters. You want to go into something like Slowbro, Hippowdon, Garchomp, all these Pokemon, Cinderace gets a stab boost from whichever attack it goes for. So for Slowbro, you're just going to U-turn out, and for Hippo and Garchomp, you're going to high jump kick. Either way, you're getting a stab boost behind these two moves, and for that reason, Cinderace is just a little too strong. Fast forward to now, and we have the great nerf, right? We've seen this firsthand with Meowscarada, who we were all very excited to abuse with Protean. Then we find out, no, it has been hugely nerfed. This is why Meowscarada, you do not see it as such a massive, like, high power attacker, because it's not always going to have stab on its U-turn, stab on its knockoff, stab on its flower trick. It can't decide, and that's actually a really big deal. I've had a lot of trouble using Meowscarada in the past because I lock into flower trick or knockoff, and now I can't use the other move, and it's like I just lost stab. So I do believe that Libero being nerfed is going to be one of the biggest changes for Cinderace, and it's definitely going to knock it down quite a few pegs. I do not see this Pokemon taking over the metagame with a choke and being the best or even top 3 in this metagame for now, just because of this nerf. When we go by move pool and we look through what Cinderace has, there's really only a few moves it's going to run for the most part. Let me delete this Meowscarada real quick. I have 3 sets here. We have a Choice Bandit set with 4 attack, U-turn, Sucker Punch as the last options. We have the regular Heavy Duty Boost set so that we're not weak to Stealth Rock due to the Fire type. And we have Court Change. Court Change, if you don't know, this is Cinderace's signature move. This move is amazing. It basically swaps your field effects with the opposing sides. So that means hazards, screens, all of it will swap. Cinderace does go through Golden Go, which is currently the greatest form of blocking hazard removal in the entire game. Immune to Defog, immune to Rapid Spin. Now there's a Fire type, which is not only faster than Golden Go, it one-hit KOs Golden Go, and it can put hazards up against Golden Go. This is really, really amazing. This, I think, is Cinderace's #1 claim to fame when it drops down in this metagame this time, because the Libero nerf was such a big nuisance that I was thinking, damn, this thing now has a lot of competition from stuff like Chi-Yu, Chien-Pao, all these much stronger Pokemon. I mean, he doesn't get stab on his high jump kicks and U-turns all the time anymore, so I thought that was going to be a big issue. But I do think Court Change is truly going to shake up the metagame. When we go through some of these sets, you can see that the moves for the most part are pretty much the same. This is the bulk up set with Sucker Punch, this is Court Change with U-turn, and this is just Banded. Reason being is that despite Cinderace's great move pool, it really doesn't need to run too many different moves. It does have access to Gunk Shot, which is really, really cool. You are able to snipe fairies that way, but honestly, I love Sucker Punch. I think there's a lot of Pokemon in this metagame that are faster than you. Things are Terraing into different types as well. What if you're against a Chien-Pao and they Terra into an Ice type? You can have that strong Sucker Punch. Another huge, huge Pokemon in the current metagame, Dragapult. That thing is sky high in usage. It's like top 5 right now. Also Scarf Golden Go. In general, I just like Sucker Punch on Cinderace, and I think that it's probably going to have more utility than Gunk Shot currently. When Pokemon Home does come out and we potentially get Pet Clefable, Tapus, and other possible fairies, then we can talk about using Gunk Shot. But for now, I really do like the utility that Sucker Punch has. Just, you know, getting rid of a bunch of faster Pokemon. There's a lot of ghosts in the metagame to begin with. I think this is definitely the way to go. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is Pyro Ball. Pyro Ball is Cinderace's other signature move alongside Court Change. 120 base power move, 90% accurate with a 10% chance to burn the target. This is really one of the best moves ever. I believe last generation it was 130 base power, so it looks like they brought it down, which is good because last generation it was inarguably a broken move. Chance to burn the target, there's no drawback. It's not like Flare Blitz where you take a recoil every time you use it. Again, 90% accuracy isn't shit, and you can burn the target. Very, very spammable move. This move also is not contact, which means you're more than free to go for this against Glimmora, Garchomp, all these Pokemon that love to punish contact moves. That's a really big deal. All these Fire-type physical attackers in the past, if they want to go for their strongest move, it's Flare Blitz every single time. They have to go for Flare Blitz. They hit a Helmet Pokemon, and they die as a result. This is basically why the physical Fire-type attacker died out in previous generations. Nobody uses shit like Darmanitan unless it's for fun or it's in lower tiers, because people just drop a Helmet Pex or a Helmet Garchomp on their team, and that Pokemon is absolutely invalidated now. It's not the case for Cinderace. Cinderace does not have these issues. One, because Libero used to boost its shit. Libero is changed now, alright? Remember. And that being said, now that Libero is changed, Cinderace does have a lot of issues. While Pyro Ball is still that strong move, the same bulky waters come around and beat its ass. Dondozo, Toxapex, those dudes are still going to come around and spin the block on Cinderace. He is not going to be able to break those Pokemon. Yes, it can have this banded U-turn, and you can U-turn every time, but regardless, it's not as consistent as it used to be, right? Back in last generation, people didn't even run Choice Banded Cinderace. There wasn't really a point to running it. If you could change up all your moves, why would you want to be locked into a move? It's like running Specs on Protean Greninja. That doesn't make any sense. But now, because of Libero's nerf, I do think that Choice Band is going to be the way to go. Basically, I think almost all the time. Because if you do want to use Cinderace, you want to get some damage off this thing. And now that it doesn't have Libero, well, we're looking at a Pokemon with just 116 base attack. 331 really does not look that scary. You're going to need some type of boosting item. And that's where Choice Band comes in. I think Torkoal is going to be the best partner for Cinderace. I mean, obviously, fire types love Sun, right? However, I think this is what will turn Cinderace into a Pokemon with no walls and one of the best breakers in the tier. So, 2 calcs, and my boy NJMP showed me these calcs. Big shots to him. This is going to have your head spinning when you see this. Boom. So, this is considering all the stars aligning. This would be your Cinderace terrestrialized into a fire type under Sun. But can you see this damage? Look at Dondozo. This is the bulkiest physical defensive mon in the game right now. 500 HP, 361 defense. Boom. It's taking 35 to 41%. Guaranteed 3 KO. We go down the line, we look at another, just the gold standard of defense. Garchomp, max HP, max defense, 48 to 56. Cinderace is a fantastic Terra user, just because, I mean, Pyro Ball is that low risk move in general, as I said. 90% accuracy, there's no recoil or nothing, you can burn your opponent. All in all, it's a great move. Why wouldn't you want to Terra into a fire type and just spam that shit when it has low drawback? So for me, I think Bandit is definitely going to be my most used set. I see myself spamming this a lot. With Torkoal and Shiyu, yes, very cheap, dishonest strategies. However, we're going to have to tap in with that. We're going to have to tap in with that. I think Bandit Cinderace is going to be the way to go. Again, Court Change is still going to be great. We're going to be passing all the hazards back onto the opposing side. It's going to really be amazing how Cinderace takes care of these Glimmora X Golden Go teams. We segue over to the Scarlet Violet sample team thread, and you can see how much work Cinderace would put in versus a lot of this shit. For example, Glimmora, again, we're passing all those back. This doesn't even have a Golden Go, right? You look at any Golden Go offense, this one has webs. Well, this team automatically gets invalidated. If you ever put your webs up, Cinderace is throwing them right back. So any type of hazard stack plus Golden Go is automatically going to have an issue with Cinderace. And they are going to need to restructure their builds to deal with Cinderace. Otherwise, they're going to get cooked. Because a lot of these hazard-heavy teams, look at this one, for example, the bulky offense, the Chimpao Glimmora Golden Go team. Everybody has seen this team by now on the ladder. I ladder with it. I made a video of it. Joey did a video with this. Everybody's seen this team by now. Cinderace is going to go crazy versus this team because you're never going to be able to keep the hazards up. It did lose Libero, right? So it's not going to be able to, you know, change up its attacks as easily, U-turn, get the stab, then high jump kick the neck, blah, 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 all that stuff. But it really doesn't matter. It still hits all of these things very hard. Hazards won't stay up. And for that reason, I think Libero, Cinderace, see there I go again, calling it Libero instead of Cinderace. And for that reason alone, I think that Cinderace is going to be a huge piece in the metagame. It completely takes on these bulky offense teams. The hazard stack metagame right now is really, really annoying. Every team has Golden Go because it's basically the only way you can stop both Defog and Rapid Spin. I really don't like the direction the current hazard spam is going in, so I do think Cinderace is going to be a much needed change for that. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be overbearing on defensive Pokemon either, because we keep drilling home how Libero got nerfed. It's not going to break the same way. Bandit is your best bet. Bandit is really going to be nasty with Terra. Like that's the one. That's the one for sure. But you really can't count out the other sets. As for bulk up, I put it in just because it is an option, but I'm going to be honest, I do not think bulk up is that good. We have a lot of unaware Pokemon currently in the metagame. Bulk up is not going to allow you to get past those. I'm talking Skeledirge, Dondozo. You're not beating those Pokemon regardless, so you might as well run Bandit and hope you can get through them that way. That is what I think, and I would highly recommend that you do not waste your time with bulk up. I'm not saying bulk up is bad. There's always going to be a utility for something like this, but I do think U-Turn, Court Change, and Bandit are going to be far superior with Cinderace when the game comes out. Alright team, and now let us compare Cinderace to the rest of the Mons in overuse currently. So, Golden Go in the S rank. Well, we've talked about it so much. Golden Go being this high up in usage is a big reason as to why Cinderace is going to be such a good Pokemon when it drops down. So, we already know Cinderace completely owns Golden Go. We don't have to touch too much on that. Down to S- rank, Chi-Yu, Dragapult, and Great Tusk. While Cinderace obviously does not live in attack from any of these Pokemon, pretty decent versus all of them. Dragapult can get hit by Sucker Punch. Chi-Yu, you can just U-turn or high jump kick on it, assuming it's not Scarfed. And then Great Tusk, well, Great Tusk you're always going to U-turn out on, or if you're Banded, well, that's not really switching into Pyro Ball well at all. So I wouldn't say Cinderace does too poorly versus any of these. Remember, the 119 speed is real good. I believe this is what Roaring Moon hits, right? And Roaring Moon is already faster than the majority of Pokemon every time you're battling against it. So you can kind of see Cinderace as like that. Go down to A+ rank, we got Annihilape. Annihilape is pretty solid versus Cinderace, all things considered. Can switch in Terras into a water type more often than not, so I see Annihilape dealing with this pretty well. But again, Bandit set will go crazy. In the sun, this doesn't have any defensive utility, so this is simply talking about the boot set when I say that Annihilape is able to take it on. Chiampao cannot switch into Cinderace for shit. Can't switch it on a single move. It dies to all of them, which is funny. So yeah, Chiampao I guess can trade with Crunch. It's faster, but ain't no switching whatsoever. Bicycle's a little bit annoying because it's just barely faster than Cinderace, but again, they're not really comparable. D-Knight deals with Cinderace quite well. All Cinderace can do is U-turn. It's going to get set up onto shit by D-Knight unless D-Knight does turn into a fighting type. And you're able to high jump kick. Espathra is Espathra. You're just going to U-turn out and then call your opponent a pussy for using this. Iron Valiant cannot cannot OHKO you with anything if it is not Banded or Specs, so you're free to Pyro Ball knock that shit out in a 1v1, provided they're booster energy so they're faster than you to begin with. Kingambit, not able to OHKO you, you pack that up. Moon, Speed Tie, better win. Tinglu, you just high jump kick it over and over again. We go down to A rank. All of these guys, they all have a way to lose to Cinderace, which I like. Bandit clears all these first of all, including Garg A Nachi. He's getting popped by that Bandit HJK. I keep saying Bandit just because in my head, that's the set I'm going to run the most. I don't feel like running a Pokemon with an unstabbed potential U-turner high jump kick and boots off 331 attack. It just seems to me like a waste of time. I'm already telling you right now, bulk up, there's no point when you can just U-turn and Court Change out. You're not going to get much out of this. You're going to wish you had SD Chiampao every time over this. I can guarantee it. Now, looking at Bandit though, this is where it really has its utility. We go down to the A- rank. Chomp, we already showed the Chomp calc gets blown up. Hatterene probably gets OHKO'd in the sun too. Moth, not a check. Rotom is pretty decent check, but certainly not a counter. Dirge, I think Dirge is the #1 guy to take on Cinderace. Dirge, as long as you stay Fire Ghost, Cinderace cannot do shit to you, right? He has to Sucker Punch, which you just don't attack, you slack off. Cinderace has to be Banded in the sun with Terra Fire and hit both Pyro Balls to ever beat Dirge. Dirge is always packing up Cinderace. Nothing it can do. That's just something Cinderace has to accept. And then Volcarona. The Volcarona is not shit to this. Resist Giga Drain, resist Fire Dance, one-hit KO it, send it back to Gen 5 for the Pyro Ball. So that is really my breakup of how Cinderace goes past all the Mons in the tier. And yeah, I'm very excited for this thing to drop down. I really do not think it's going to be banned. Ultimately, I think it's going to find its place in the metagame, and it's going to just be a good Pokemon. I think it's a lot closer to Meowscarada now than it is to being the big boss it used to be last generation. We can compare this to Meow. It's not too much different. It's really not too much different. Meow has a lot more speed, which is a big deal. It has a little bit less attack, which, I mean, is not that big of a deal. And he also has a good amount of utility options. U-turn, knockoff, flower trick, which always crits, spikes, toxic spikes, that kind of, like, it's funny, right? Because Cinderace was that big bad dog last generation, and it's not the same this time. It's going to have competition from a lot of different Pokemon in the metagame, which is exciting to me too, because I didn't really want a metagame where Cinderace came back and it just got stab U-turn and forever U-turned on its counter and eventually won the game. I thought that was a very toxic point in the Sword and Shield OU metagame, so I'm really looking forward to see what people do with Cinderace. But that is going to wrap up our video for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. Drop a big like if you did. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Cinderace. Let me know if I forgot anything too. And yeah, what do you guys think? Will Cinderace be broken? Will it not be? Maybe that guy's trash. We're about to find out. See y'all soon. Peace.